You are now listening to TOL Podcast, Thinking Out Loud with your host, J.Lip.
You know what this is, and you know who I am. It's your boy J.Lip, Thinking Out Loud Podcast. We back at it for another week yet again. Thank God we alive. I got the big homie, big bro j.Rhodes in the building, representing Detroit by way of Chicago. What up, Rhodes?
What up, dog? I'm here, baby.
All right. Of course, we got the guest and the queen of the building. We got Ashley representing DC. Ashley, what's good?
What's good? Let's get it popping.
All right, now we got two special guests in the building. We got another big homie, Ivo representing what?
Southwest, baby.
All right, D-Town. And then, of course, another friend of the family, not a friend to the room yet. He got to prove himself. So we got the little homie, Tracy, in the building. Tracy, what you representing?
Northwest Detroit.
There we go. Still repping the D. So we D'd up tonight. So let's get it. And myself, of course.
A little bit.
And of course, like myself, representing as always, Detroit by way of Columbus, Ohio. What up? Now, we're going to dive straight into the topic tonight. Tonality in the black community and abroad. I want to kind of go in on something that's really been kind of a pocket topic, what I call something that is something we could discuss that doesn't have to be pertinent to current events or whatnot, but it is still a current event. As long as you living in this world and you black in America, it's always going to be a current event. So with that being said, I consider myself to be proud black man, about brown skin, a little peanut butterish, a little caramel. I want to kind of get some feedback from y'all as far as, do you feel like in 2017, do we still continue to deal with the issue of infighting in the culture, in the black community, with the skin tone dilemma between being darker versus lighter skin?
I mean, I think we do, just mainly because of social media, like Black Twitter, and just the perception we see in, film and television all the time. You got stereotypes with light-skinned folks, you got stereotypes with dark-skinned folks, and that common perception, if you're dark-skinned, you're more not as like soft or into your feelings as a light-skinned person, or even on the female end, if you're dark-skinned, you've been told you're not, you're cute for a dark-skinned girl. If you're light-skinned, you look good or whatnot. I mean, there's rap songs about this type of stuff. So, I mean, we just see it in society just growing up, and even currently now as adults.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, it's definitely real. I mean, it was like 2 months ago, Kodak Black, was quoted saying, I don't like women my complexion. Yeah, I like light-skinned women. They too trail. Yeah. So it's, I mean, and like Tracy alluded to, we do see it in like media and awards. It does seem like mixed or lighter skinned women tend to give more faster recognition than dark skinned women in entertainment. And also too, in our own culture, I think that a lot of times we receive like being darker with being more African or having bad hair or different grades of hair and stuff like that. Granted, there's some exceptions to that, but I'm saying, I see that's a decent percentage of people who do feel that way.
What you think, Ash? Speaking on hair and speaking on what I feel like are more the female perceptions of lighter versus darker skinned black women. What do you think?
I think it's really crazy that people perpetuate this type of narrative. There are a lot of dark-skinned girls with long, curly, whatever, mixed-looking hair. You got light-skinned girls that have nappy hair. And this whole thing about, what I've noticed, there's a lot of people that don't want to be affiliated with African. And that's really disturbing in the black community. Okay. Really disturbing.
Right. So, it's a dichotomy, right? So the problem is that, and being really, really light skinned, and
I'm glad you said it, because I didn't want to put it out there so blatantly, but I was going to be like, as our resident light skin expert, go ahead.
It's always gotta be one. Like, I'm talking light skinned guy, but yeah, because growing up, it's always a difference, right? So from being called different races other than black, what you mix with, constantly hearing that, and then hearing that from light skinned, dark skinned, especially darker skinned people, and then when you get into arguments or even just talking junk amongst people, it's always like Tracy said, the light skin, are you soft, are you in your feelings, that type of stuff, you hear all the time, whereas most of my friends are darker skinned cats. So, we would get into it all the time, but it's just a dichotomy, and it's been going on for a long time. The 70s and 80s, light skin was in, 90s, light skin was in, and dark skin, it should always be in.
Yeah. You make it sound like it was like a fashion trend,
I mean, but that's what people say, though. They always say that if you talk to old heads, back in the day, light skinned cats was in, you hear that joke all the time. And, we're all black, and at the end of the day, whether you want to say it's African, you're African or not, there are black people who aren't African, who are born in a different continent, but
let's
same time,
explore that for let's
you know.
let's explore that for a second. So let's talk about this whole, and we're just gonna bridge the gap, be blunt and frank as possible. What are the stereotypes that people that could be or potentially listening might not know go on within the culture? So I can kind of jumpstart that conversation and say that yes, I think that there's a perception of beauty, correct, in America specifically, maybe abroad. I can't speak to that. Does anybody have any experience? Do they believe that it is a international perception that the fairer skin is the standard of beauty?
No, because I've dated people that were international, and sometimes it's
Oh shit! Go
most
ahead.
times it's like what you consider to be, if you're in the Netherlands and they're all fair skinned people, and then you have someone that's even brown or dark, that's exotic. So it's really just a flip almost. So that's why a lot of black women get love in Europe and some of these other countries, because it's considered exotic. So if we flip it to the Americas, and all of the black men, like the Hispanic girls, or maybe some of the Asian or European girls, it's exotic to them. So I think it's this sense of exoticness that everybody feels from across the globe.
Sure.
Well, I respectfully agree and disagree
Let's hear about the
because
disagreement. Go ahead.
because all right, so in India, just for example, India has 2 billion people, right? And they have a severe, tonality problem. Whereas if you're lighter skinned, you're looked at as basically the equivalent of a white American man or woman. And if you're darker skinned, they're basically treated as black people are in America. And the same thing, you a nigga. And then in Africa, like South Africa, for example, it's the same thing. And, and a lot of places in Africa is the same thing. And that's not even going into the caste system that they have. So I agree in Europe, that's different because the races have mixed so much in Europe, especially close to the Mediterranean. When you're in Italy, of course, the darker you are, it's you are exotic, or Milan, or, those high fashion where it's a little bit different. But if you go towards the Asiatic countries and closer towards Africa, it's still a real big problem as far as darker skin being viewed as lesser than or not as attractive, and lighter skin being smarter, better, clean, white as driven snow, all that type of stuff, innocent. That's how it's seen. outside of Europe.
Do you work for Dove?
I do not. I am not. Saying that these comments are my.
No. I know. I got you.
Of the world is from speaking with people who are actually from those countries.
Do you think white soap gets you cleaner than black soap?
All right, moving on. So we know that the soap
I say this
thing,
as a dark skin guy. Black soap all day.
Wait. Okay, so I was going to transition, but let me get this clear. You use black soap, Tracy?
Yes, it's better than white soap.
Explain.
That stuff is from. It has all the shea butter and all that stuff. It's from Africa. It's meant for our type of, our skin tone, dark or light. It's just better for your skin opposed to like Dove. Or is that too soon to say Dove? But
no, we can say they're not paying us no sponsorship. So go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, unlike
when you
Dove,
say black,
when
you say black, you mean black as in the soap is black and that's better for us.
Yes, what's the ingredients in soap is black and it's better for us. And I guess I could go a little bit further. This stuff came from Africa, and technically, to me, I look at it as buying black. So it's like,
Wow. Okay.
For the culture, I black soap for the culture. So at least that's how I feel.
Black soap for me, I don't think it doesn't do my skin well. And I don't know, it's like it leaves this residue that I don't like. And I'm not opposed to any black businesses or products, but it leaves this film on my skin that I don't like.
That nasty black film on your skin.
That film is called Black Pride, first off. It's wonderful.
All right, so to make it clear, Ashley don't get down with that nasty black filmy skin that she gets from the soap. All right, but bringing it back some levity to this. So again, the question was, is a fair skin the standard of beauty? It looks like we have some difference of opinions there. Rose, what do you think?
I think what everyone said is true. I mean, definitely, Ivo hit up some great points on some of those more Eastern countries because, like I say, in India, there's been a lot of research about people bleaching their skin, trying to get lighter.
That's a good point.
I mentioned about Brazil, a very mixed melting pot, as they like to call it. However, fairer skinned people are perceived more wealthy and more economically successful. So yes, there are some instances where black is exotic and usually is by Caucasian or Hispanic men, but a lot of times black is perceived
You
as
say
less.
that with like disdain in your voice.
Yes,
like,
get a mash.
You know,
Get a mash.
Does anybody else catch that? It's like,
Yes, we did, but we
I
wanted
agree
you
with
to
this.
call
I
it.
fully support the tone of his voice when it comes to describing this because I disagree with it. But it's one of those things. It's like I guess the world views it as so that if you're fairer, I guess you look better. But for me, logically, it makes no sense. I mean,
Explain that, Tracy. Go ahead. And let me also give the room some perspective. Let me just clear the board. You know, Tracy is a person, so if we were to do a range, we would say Ivo is the albino. Then you have myself and Rose, who are like the butterscotch, peanut butter. I'm not describing you, Rose, as
I'm
that.
caramel.
Caramel, okay. I ain't gonna call you that, but and then we got Tracy and Ashley, who are darker than caramel, in the words of Rose. So I just want to give the people listening perspective that we have a spectrum here. So when we listen to the opinions, we want to make sure that we understand where those opinions are coming from and where they derive from as far as the personal experiences. And that's the importance of the conversation itself. So go ahead, Tracy, with what you were saying.
I just feel as though like the darker skin I feel is more natural. And I want to give a disclaimer. I don't have a winning color complex, but it's like, it is what it is. I feel as though the darker skin is natural. I mean, civilization came from Africa. Last time I checked, Africa as a continent is hot. Now, I know Ivo and Rose is a better history buffs than I am, so fact check me. But if we just from a scientific standpoint, if civilization came from Africa, and, that's the hottest spot typically on the earth, that means your skin's going to be a little bit darker because we have this wonderful ability to absorb, to withstand the sun rays better than anybody of a fairer skin.
Absolutely.
Right.
You're truly
One could argue
melanated.
that if you are lighter, then if anything, one can argue that you're not.
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. This is going to be that grenade.
All I'm saying is,
Throw it.
I'm not saying. All I'm saying is, I have a better chance of having skin cancer than anyone else that's lighter than me. There's something to atone for that. I mean, like, there's a reason that we have this tone, and if we came from that continent of Africa, dark skin was I like to think of like the original human was probably dark skin. I'm reaching, but that's how I feel. How did that come from being? How did we go from that? Well, I know how we went from that to being, light skin as being.
Let's hold off on the how because we're about to get into that. But I heard Ashley make a peep and I heard Rose make a peep. Go ahead, Ash.
So it's funny because I was making coffee this morning and it was
What?
originally black, right?
Right.
And then I started putting cream in it and I'm like, oh, this kind of, now it's like dark, it's lightening a little bit.
It's not
and
good
I said, right, it just came to me, I said, this is the color of my skin. So if I was completely dark or completely from the origination, I'd be pure. But because I have cream mixed in and all this stuff, I couldn't identify. Like it made me feel some type of way this morning.
You couldn't identify with your coffee though?
Coffee is actually good for your body. When you add sugar or
right,
cream,
exactly, and
that's
cream
processed.
it exactly.
Actually, to really bring it back from a scientific perspective, dark coffee is not good for you. No coffee is really good for you, quote unquote. So let's not try to leverage coffee and say the darkest coffee is the best. Like, come on, let's be real.
But
now.
no, darker coffee is better for you because it's at its purest state,
Right,
and that's what Tracy's saying.
Let me bring my creamer brother into the conversation. Ivo, what do you think about what was said?
All right.
Being that vanilla cream. Go ahead.
So, of course it's a dilution, right? But even though, we're diluted over time, it's always been an evolution of people. So whether we started out as darker skin or started out as all around the same color, and over time, as, years and millennia passed, we've gotten darker based upon where we were in geography. then that makes a little more sense to me. Because if you think about it, how the hell is, never mind, I don't want to go into that part.
No.
But
So it sounds like you're saying if we started off in the middle, it makes more sense scientifically.
Right. If we all start off in the middle, right, then I guess everyone would be around the same color. But if we didn't start off in the middle and we all start off around the middle and all, then that would kind of make more sense to me, because it wouldn't be all these different races if we were all started from the middle. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Going down the line, going down DNA wise, the first fossil might have been found there, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't any fossils everywhere else. And I mean, speaking of tanning, Tracy talking about you tan better than anybody, man. You gotta realize that people from the Mediterranean tan very well. I've never got burned before. I lived in Florida, so I mean, I tan very well. So I hear what you're saying, that the darker you are, you would think that your skin can take the sun rays better. That's probably is scientifically proven. But depending on where in the nation, the country, the world you're from, based upon that and how the sun is closer to the equator, it just depends on where your ancestors were from. If they're close to the equator, then you could take the sun. If not, then you probably can't.
That's fair.
I can get real deep on y'all. I ain't gonna do that right now.
Rose,
Go ahead.
What's
This
the name
is
of this
thinking out loud.
Yeah, Rose, tell me one more time. What's the name of the podcast that you featured on in the intro, where they say your name? What's it called?
I'm thinking out loud.
Okay, so go ahead and think out loud for us real quick.
All right, I'm gonna show you how they mess us all up. So darkness is good. Darkness is actually God, and light, the sun, is the devil. And we've been brainwashed throughout history to think that God is the light, the sun is the God. That's why they worship the sun. And subsequently, we think that lighter skin tones, white snow, those things are pure. When really, we think about it, snow contains a lot of germs and stuff. And actually, darkness, like soil, is rich. That's where life comes from. There's darkness. That's God. So you really have to reverse the psychology to understand, because before there was anything, there was God. It was just a void. It was going to, like Genesis, there was nothing. It was a void. It was darkness. That's God. But when he said, let there be light and all that other stuff, that came after. So really embracing the darkness, literally, is actually getting us closer to where we began. So I really do think the first people were darker skinned people. And there's all kinds of myths and ideologies of how people separated, whether it be Pangea, whether it be Dr. Yaku creating like white people through experimentation of lighter and lighter black people in the mountains. You know what I'm saying? There's all kinds of weird, crazy stories about it. But I do think we did originate as darker skinned people. And as whether it's the continents, the climates, whatever, people do get lighter. We see that in our own genetic makeup as African Americans. Babies get lighter, babies get darker. It just can happen all over the place. So, I think that's honestly where we came from.
That's deep.
It's deep, but is it true?
Wow. You just flip that whole argument, just flip the table over.
No, the reason why I ask is because there was a lot of mention to, and really kind of like a lot of alluding to different studies and different myths and kind of tribal knowledge that occurred. We kind of already we've transitioned into the conversation about the history of the people who consider themselves melanated, people of color. And so the question really on a more holistic perspective is, does it really matter who was first when it comes to how we were indoctrinated as a American black culture to have this rift between us, between the darker skinned black person and the lighter skinned black person? That's the history that I want to kind of discuss and kind of scratch the surface on. Is in America, there's a lot of people who would give you the background and say, because of X, Y, and Z, this is why our people were torn apart systemically to be against one another, to destroy us from within. So that's what I want to kind of reach out and again open the floor to the guests to the room. He the medium homie now because he dropped some knowledge. The medium homie, Tracy, what are your thoughts as far as the history of the tonality and the disparaging conflict that we have amongst ourselves? Where does that come from in America?
Well, as I've always been taught, the light skin, dark skin, it dates back to slavery. At least this is what we kind of grew up learning. Like if you was dark skin, you was out in the field. If you was light skin, you was light skin for a reason. And unfortunately, that reason was because either, either your parents or something has, slept with, the slave master.
Let's not say slept with. Let's say raped.
Okay, all right, rape. All right, I keep it real. You got the slave master raped the slaves, and then the byproduct of that.
Them, but go ahead.
What was it?
Say it again, Ashley.
No, I don't want it to be. There were some slaves that wanted to be white and wanted to be a part of the house. So they did sleep.
Ashley, you
All
sound
No,
right, you
that's
sound like an
real. Okay.
apologist. You sound like an apologist.
No, real.
Well, I don't
Read
know
the
if apologists.
story.
There's some people who probably did not want to work out in the fields, and they looking at, and this is gonna sound bad, but if you're like a dark skinned female, you're picking cotton. And he's like, well, I know one way I can get in the house, and it's I guess I'm speaking from her perspective.
Man,
This is a reach.
That's
I don't
man.
believe this.
real.
That's a reach. But that's the only logical thing that I can think of, other than the obvious thing is rape. But the thing is, the byproduct of that rape was something against your will is, like a light skinned child, whatever. And
Potentially
so,
light skin.
as a woman, I can't speak on it. I know it has to be bad when you get, if someone, God forbid, you get raped, and then you actually have a kid. That is tough because that living thing is the byproduct of one of the worst days of your life, period.
Right.
And back in those times, you have something that don't even look like you at all, and everyone else knows it. Then when you get preferable treatment from the slave master because he knows that's a seed, that makes everybody of a darker hue jealous of you. And I'm really trying to paraphrase it, but that you just have that whole mindset. You just trickle it down generation on generation on generation on generation. Because the white genes, your hair is different. It's not as curly, it's straight. So then we stupidly think that's good hair. So light-skinned people have good hair. You know what I'm saying? It's just little stuff like that builds upon it.
I think Tracy, I think I agree with what you're saying is when you create differences in how people look, you're forced to choose a side of what's right and what's wrong, right?
Exactly.
And I agree with that. I want to talk to one of the original slave masters. Ivo, what do you think as far as like the heritage?
Always shot hard, man.
Don't
Oh,
do that.
No, I'm playing. Just to be clear, Ivo is black. He's just of a higher, fairer skin than who's on this podcast. So, with that being said, Ivo,
Higher.
he's a higher, he's or a lesser tonality. He's he's a person who I feel like can offer perspective from the cultural international perspective because he really brings the gems, and that's what I'm looking for as far as what Tracy just represented, as far as there, or even Ashley talking about there could have been some women, even some men, I don't know, who maybe have.
You want light gems and dark gems, right?
I want my gems to all be from the panel, from the
Regardless,
culture.
I'm shining, baby.
And that's fine, and we're not going to go there right now. What I want to know from you, Ivo, is how do you feel about the respect that is given or not given based on the depth of your melanin? Because I can tell you personally that there is a perception, even though from a darker skinned person saying, light skinned cats are soft or, they're more emotional, there is also a perception. There's negatives and there's positives on both sides of the coin. So from the historical perspective, what are your thoughts as far as what Tracy shared about slavery?
I think what Tracy said, it was a lot of incredibility in what he said because, we always heard, well, okay, going, passing down stories because most of our history was erased, right? So we really don't know a lot of it. A lot of it is all secondhand from people who we don't know what their sources were from. But, there's always been stories of slave masters, political figures having, Thomas Jefferson had, who knows how many, of us are of a Thomas Jefferson bloodline. So when it comes down to it, of course there was the house nigga scenario, the house Negro scenario, right? Where, you have the light skinned person inside the house, because they were born from quote unquote nobility, kind of, sort of, through bad acts, but they were the ones who were educated more, because they had to be, because they sort of kind of had, a tie to the master. So over the course of time,
And just so we're clear, that when you talk about education, we're talking about something as simple as reading, correct?
Something as simple as reading.
Right.
As simple as reading.
Go ahead.
As simple as teaching different skills that the people, that the darker skinned slaves in the field did not have access to. So over the years, that does breed jealousy. That does breed heat, and greed, and it's a lot of different feelings that you're going to have. So pass that down century to century to century, and opportunities, bringing it full circle now, it's still the same thing to a lesser degree, because now you'll have, growing up, I would hear girls say, oh, you light skin with good hair, well, a pretty baby. And that's like, if you think about it, it's the same thing as the same slavery scenario. It's just coming from your own race now. So instead of it being from a white person back then, it's more coming from someone who looks sort of like you. So, but that's where the whole dichotomy is, because we're seen as different, but we're not different, because all it is the skin. We still bleed the same. We still come from the same. And when it comes down to it, from every other race standpoint, we're the same people. It's just between each other we're not. So from, if we dropped me, you, everyone in this panel in Korea, right, they're going to look at all of us as black. It doesn't matter if I'm from my skin or not. But here in America, because we've been not a great majority of black people have been brainwashed to think one is right and one is wrong, whether it's darker or not. That's where the problems arise, because we can't get out of our own way to understand that every other race, for the most part, can come together regardless of their differences. But we can't. And it's been systematically done through centuries of oppression, whether that's through education, whether it's through tearing down businesses that are already available, or whether that's through raping the women and doing things like that. So all that stuff has been passed down, and we can't get out of our own way because we've been brainwashed systematically. So I agree with a lot that Tracy had to say. I really, I'm trying to come from a different angle here, but in reality, that really is the state of the matters with our race in America.
I appreciate that honesty, Rose. What you think?
No, it's the truth, and I think that it's so easy for us to say like we can't get out of our own way because we know the truth. We do accept the fact that we're all black, and regardless of
keep in mind though, when we say we know the truth, one thing that Ivo did mention is we know the truth we were taught. We don't know the truth of our history before being enslaved. So, do we really know the truth?
But what I'm saying is like we know the truth that we're all black, regardless if Ivo is directly mixed between a black parent and an Italian parent, or your great grandparent was white, or my grandmother was Native American / white. Like whatever the case may have been, we do know that we retain that black African American common thread. But I think what happens is you have the eye test where you say, well, they look different than I do. And then you also see that some people get preferential treatment because they're lighter or they're different. That's the truth. Like, it doesn't always come from within our community. We see it from the outside community. They like to your example, they might say like, oh, droppers in Korea, yeah, they're all black, but at the same time, who's to say that they won't find Ivo more attractive than Tracy? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
And it has nothing to do with Tracy's character or Ivo's character. It's the fact that like, oh, he looks closer to us, or he has some features that we identify. We like the green hazel eyes as opposed to the dark brown eyes. We like the wavy hair as opposed to the kinky curly hair. So those things do infiltrate our community, and we kind of reflect that, unfortunately.
Ash, I heard you snicker. Go ahead.
Well, that wasn't me, actually.
Okay. So
no, that was actually me. That snickered a little bit because I think, I hate to be a little blunt, but I think people who, I'll say men and women who are dark skinned.
Think it out loud. Do not preface your statement with I got to be a little blunt. Be blunt as fuck. Go.
Well, it's like dark skinned men and women who, as kids that grew up, I think especially women, I think I touched on this earlier, that whole, you got dark skinned girls that are gorgeous now, but growing up, they probably felt like they was ugly as hell because they already saw that standard of beauty not being them at all. And you have kids. Mm-hmm. Kids are cruel because, like you said, kids are blunt. Kids think out loud every day. So they're going to say, they call people ugly. My wife's dark skin. And like growing up, she dealt with the same thing, people calling her ugly or even me, just to piggyback off of Rose comments about how they'll look at Ivo and they'll look at me. They growing up, middle school and high school. Like, I didn't know light skin was not in style because that's all, women was flocking to back in high school, at least where I grew up at. So it kind of messes with your whole little psyche because it's like, well, damn, maybe I'm not, that attractive. And then when you look at movies, like your average black actor is like of maybe your complexion, Janan, or lighter. You don't see.
Jesus.
I disagree with that.
Hold on, before he continues, I don't want you to disagree. Lip, man. It's lip. I got a job, bro. I got to go to work tomorrow. All right? It's lip. Just lip. That's it. Go ahead, Rose. So, as Tracy said about lip.
But I'm saying, like, that's what you see, like, in TV shows, stuff like that. Look, I know, Rose, we have famous dark-skinned actors. I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist.
We got a lot of them.
But when you watch different TV shows, you know how they cast people like this. When they want, like, this African, they want to get something that's so politically correct. Yeah. They want that fair skin. Even on commercials, you see mixed black folks now Because I guess to them, they think that that's reaching all sorts of race. But sometimes, as a dark skinned person, especially if you're a kid, it means something to see someone that's like you, that has curly hair like you, that's just as dark as you are. It means something sometimes. Now, as an adult, I know better. But that just because you know something's right doesn't mean that, it doesn't sting a little bit.
No, and I agree with you.
I know the history, but I still fall victim to it.
And I agree with you, Tracy.
Sometimes.
I agree with you, Tracy, on the fact that, and my prime example is Terry Crews. He's an amazing actor, but what was he most known for as far as public social media? He was known for the Old Spice commercials where he's flexing his chest and just being this loud, boisterous, angry black man. Like even that they tried to make him. He made him
recent though.
No, because they made him a caricature of himself. In my opinion, they made him a caricature of himself because he's not just.
Friday After Next.
Say it again.
Oh well, I thought he was more famous for that character on Friday After Next.
Even that. Thank you. That's a great example right there.
Same stuff.
He's a person of darker skin who's chasing what he calls his vanilla chocolate. Like come on, that's the role that he played.
Right, you're right.
Yeah, that's
wow, I didn't think about that.
And it was another caricature of the culture where he's the darkest skinned person in the room and he's trying to reach his trophy, which is this fair skinned group of women. Unfortunately, we're actually men, but the point of the conversation is he was still attracted more so to a woman who was of fair skin, which kind of reintroduces that mentality of what is our true standard of beauty. Now we've gone through.
Where is he from?
Who? He's from Flint, Michigan. Terry Crews is from Flint.
I'm saying I've never seen him chase women in an Old Spice commercial.
No, we're talking about the movie White Girls. He was in the movie White Girls where he refused to date anyone of color, so he pursued the whitest and purest, fairest skin that he could. That was his interest. So in that same breath,
also a satire on athletes too. So,
and that's another great point. I don't want to get too distracted from the point, Rose. I'm gonna let you say your piece on this, and I'm gonna introduce the final topic. Go ahead.
No, I don't have anything to say. I don't think. I guess I disagree with Tracy saying when I look at prominent black, especially black male actors, most of them actually are medium to dark skin complexion. I mean, everybody from like Alan Payne, he's relatively light, but he's not like super light. Samuel L. Jackson, Wesley.
But do you know why that is?
What about females? What about the females?
Now the females, you got a good point. Now the females, I would definitely say you got a point with the females. However, I do think that I just don't think that they portray.
It sounds like you got you stumped.
No.
That's because the darker skinned men are seen as more powerful and stronger
and sexier, and that's what white women like. So it doesn't matter. It's just about whatever they want and what's going to sell and gonna make money.
But black women used to like Morris Chestnut too. They like Michael Ealy.
Black women also like Shamar Moore. So
and they also like
Michael Ealy
what's his name?
Michael B. Jordan.
Amari Hedrick and for Power. I think black women just like men of muscular definition. Honestly, if you got a little shape and muscles, they like. What?
Right. Please repeat that. I'm saving that soundbite. Say it again. Say it again. Hold on, Ash. Let him say it again. He said he likes men of what muscle definition? Go ahead, Rhodes. Go ahead.
I wasn't trying to disrespect him, but I'm just saying that black women, in my perception, they seem to embrace any strong black actor of any tonality as long as they have some type of shape, in a physical.
Get
shape.
him, Ash, please. Get him.
The fact is, and it just plays out. We don't even need to have this conversation anymore. Just talk to Rose for an hour and you can see it. It's like black women will just like this whole we don't have standards or shouldn't have standards.
That was not a diss. I'm just saying that y'all don't get into the whole light skinned, dark skinned male. If a man looks good to y'all, no matter what tone, and he's attractive physically, y'all embrace him. That's what I was trying to say. It was actually a big up to women, but man, you trying to make it a j.Rhodes thing. I mean, shit, y'all embrace anybody.
Ashley is not amused right now. I can sense it.
Rhodes, I think what Ashley was trying to portray, or trying to convey rather, with your comment is, you're saying that basically as long as the cat got muscles and he flexing, they gonna take him. As long as he a buck, they gonna take him.
Right, exactly. That's what he's saying, and it's wrong.
Speak on it, Ash. So what are you looking for, as far as a black female in America Does it matter to you the skin tone of who you are looking at as a potential mate?
Me,
I was talking about entertainment, not real
he's
life. I was
talking
talking
about
about entertainment.
entertainment, but even still, it's just the comment that, and it gets worse because he didn't say that about white women. It was just
Nope.
like
No, he did
black
not.
women wanted only anything.
Because you were trying to make it a white woman thing. White women like dominant black males. I think, but black women like dominant black light skinned, medium skinned males too.
Okay, but I'm just talking about what the industry adapts to in industry drivers. So
Mhm.
if white women and I'll just say the majority, if the majority, which again is white people, like a certain thing, and they have the viewership or whatever the case or whatever the target is, that's what they're gonna cast. But the sense that black women, basically, to me, what I heard was, well, black women could just like whatever they can get. That's what I heard.
No,
That didn't, and I could be wrong, but that's what
No,
I
you're
heard.
not
you
wrong.
are
You
wrong.
heard
That's
right.
totally
You are
not what he
wrong.
said.
That's not what I
Hold on,
said.
hold on, hold
And
on.
cause
Rose, let Tracy help you out because Tracy got some more perspective. Go ahead, Tracy.
I mean,
How's that not what he said?
I don't think that's what he meant per se. I can see how Ashley may have.
So it is what he said. It's not what he meant, though.
That's not. Yeah, that context is all messed up. All he was saying is basically he was comparing what white women find attractive, and he was also saying, well, actually he was probably trying to compliment black women because he made white women sound shallow. And black women, it's more like, it doesn't matter what complex it is, they're going to like you regardless because, muscles have no race or color. So it don't matter how you look. So black women, if you're in shape, whatever.
But it's not even that. I mean, there's more to it than just looks and physicalities. It's also brain power, intelligence. It's, can you make money? It's a lot of different factors.
we're not talking about in your real life, my on TV. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. Like I was talking on TV. Like y'all like Michael Ealy. Y'all like Shamar Moore. Y'all like Morris Chestnut. Y'all
Here
like
he goes
Tate Diggs
saying
at
what
one
y'all
point in
like,
time.
Ash. Here
Right.
he go saying what y'all like.
I
What
told
y'all.
black women, like, I don't
never heard a
see
He
it.
black woman
damn near
say
about
like
to say females. Go ahead, Rose.
I never heard a black
But
woman
as she
say
said that she didn't like
I
these
didn't like
rappers, so.
I didn't like Blair Underwood because he didn't look good to me. Like y'all like all of them.
All
All
right, well
right.
let's let the man who represents that speak. Ivo, what you think? Do they
I'll
all
leave it
love you?
there.
All flavors, all flavors. So it kind of depends on, honestly, it kind of depends on where I am in the country. Because when I was down south, it was more darker skinned women who were attracted to me. And whereas up here, in the Midwest, it's kind of whatever, kind of going to, it's like I would come across more light skinned women who are attracted to me up north than I would down south. Down south, it was kind of like they mostly all were talking to darker skinned guys. So at the end of the day, I mean, I kind of can. I guess I'm kind of an enigma because I can kind of go. Because look, okay,
Wait,
so
you
Ash
said
has a
you
point, right?
wait. You said you an e nigga.
Enigma.
Oh.
Enigma.
Okay.
Not an
Yeah.
electronic
So,
nigga, an enigma.
Okay,
there you
go ahead.
go. Nigga. Yeah, that's what. Yeah. But no, like what Ashley was saying. I mean, of course, there's more to that, than what black women want in a man, of course, or any woman, but especially black women,
Well,
because
no, go
go
ahead. Go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead.
Finish your thought. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say because, black women are seen as inferior to all the other races of women. You know what I mean? Just like black men are seen as inferior to all the other races of men. So black women have it
I
worse
don't think
off
so. But go ahead.
from the grand scheme of things. Okay, so if you have a white man, so okay, let me ask you this question then, Ashley. If you have a white man, right, white man and an Asian man, and you have 5 different women, a white woman, a black woman, an Asian woman, an Indian woman, and
Latino.
whatever, Latino, right? Right? The white man and the Asian man are going to pick the white woman and the Asian woman first. They're probably going to pick the Latino woman third, the Indian woman fourth, the black woman's going to be last. And
No, I
that's
agree with that part. I was talking about the men because I think black men are idealized a little bit more than black women are,
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with
Yeah.
that.
right. But
or
so
idolized.
we're a rung above black women on the totem pole, but we're still down at the bottom, right?
Ooh,
So
Right. As far as men
so
are concerned, yeah.
that's deep.
Exactly. So when it comes down to it, black women they can be as picky as they want to be, but at the same time, they have less to choose from because black men and any man is gonna like any race of woman, period. But especially seems like the more successful a black man is, usually the more access he has to women of other races.
True.
He sees something he's never
True.
seen before. He's gonna jump ship to try something new.
Exotic.
Exotic, right? even though that may not be what's best for them. But so I mean, that's kind of my take on it. You know?
No, I definitely agree with you.
So I've been
for sure.
so I've been taken as I've been seen as the flavor of the month for a girl before because she never guy, or he might be mixed with something. Let me talk to him. I've gotten that from dark skinned women, from light skinned women. You know, I've gotten that plenty of times. So it's like I said, it's an enigma because I've at the same time I've had light skinned girls say, "No, you look like my brother. I ain't trying to talk to you." Like, okay,
As they should, because you light skinned. But my main thing right now is going into the last topic for the evening. Basically, where we're at right now, as far as the infighting, we haven't gotten too much into it. As far as the fact that we do tear each other down, we make jokes, we're comical as a culture because we have learned to turn pain into humor. That is just inherent in our blood, I feel. So we've gone through so much as a culture that we are forced to acknowledge, societal norms as being, what, it's kind of fucked up, but it's the way it is. So let's make a joke, let's crack at each other, blah blah blah. Where do we draw the line in 2017 to reunite the halves between the lighter and the darker skinned folks who comprise the holistic view of black people in America? That's what I want to leave this off on. What do we need to do to come back together and be like, you know what? Fuck what we've been through as far as how we were separated by slavery. Fuck what we've been through, how we were separated even by our indigenous cultures. And let's look at how we can unify and say, you know what? Ivo is another brother. Rhodes is another brother. Ashley's another sister. And Tracy's another brother. How can we reunite so that we can fight the good fight for empowerment and really for equality in this country?
I think, especially in America, perception is reality. So I believe we need to show more. You just need to show more interaction between. You need to see more dark-skinned people on television. You need to see more light-skinned people. You need to have folks that's not acting out these stereotypes that we've bestowed upon ourselves, really, in all forms of our culture. That's the key word, our culture. Not theirs, ours. So in our music, our videos, our shows or whatnot, we need to make it just matter of factly. Okay, they're light skinned, but they're black. Okay, it's dark skinned, doesn't matter. It's just there's one's not greater than the other.
I agree.
So
I agree.
You got to balance this stuff out.
But how?
So, well, I think in terms of from my perspective, when it comes from a dark skinned person's perspective, I need to see more of dark skinned folks in positive light, dark skinned black folks in positive light, along with light skinned folks in positive light. That's not portraying the same stereotypes we always see. We need to see more of that. So you have a generation that's not going to grow up and, separate themselves naturally. They see themselves on TV. They see themselves interacting with, other folks as well. It won't be a big deal. You got to start that from the beginning. It's really more like stuff you got to do for the future. So that next generation won't care.
When I watched Dear White People, the series on Netflix, and the militant girl that was like fighting for Black Power, that she was light skinned with the green eyes, I was like, oh, that's different. And then the dark skinned girl was, the uppity prissy one. That's different. I didn't hate it, and the reason why I didn't hate it is because it was I've seen that before, and it's
Vivian's, the chick on My Wife and Kids who was dark skinned but then got replaced by a light skinned person, like that little stuff like that. I mean, my thing is like with the white people. I guess what I'm saying is light skinned people can be militant, can be for the people as well. Dark-skinned people can be against the culture as well. And I was happy to see that it was represented that way and not always stereotypical.
There you go. That's a big part of it, is breaking the stereotypes. So once the stereotypes are broken between, not even the stereotypes, because we got to work on the stereotypes that we have between each other. Fuck the ones that are from the other races, because they're going to think what they want to think about it. It has to be about breaking our own stereotypes that we have with each other. So once we break through those, then like Tracy was saying, we can build on the foundation, because the older we are, usually the more set in the ways we are. And people now are so influenced by social media and media, period. We would need to have a constant black propaganda, good propaganda. That wouldn't even be called propaganda. Yeah, literally, it had to be like a social media revolution, because stuff happens so fast, the news cycle is so fast. It'll be pro-black one day, next minute it's 15 minutes later, someone's talking about some celebrity did something to take your attention away from it. So until we can have a constant flow of meaningful interaction with each other to where stuff is going to stick, and it's not just going to be the flavor of the, it's not just going to be, oh, well, yeah, today we're going to be pro-black today, but tomorrow, I mean, I got to, go see my white girl tomorrow. You know what I mean? Or whatever it's going to be. I mean, because that's really what it is. Because it'll be like, okay, yeah, there was, some black people got killed by this white guy, so we're all pro-black for about a good 3 weeks. And after that, once, we got bills to pay, we got to go back and, do whatever we got to do. All of a sudden, that militantness goes down and down and down because these stereotypes are still here. We just kind of conform to it. Even though that might not be what we really are, but just slowly but surely we start conforming to it towards everybody else. So everyone sees us as that because we're no longer in this pro-black togetherness. So if we could stay together somehow, then that would do it. But it has to be some type of constant in your face. We need to do this all the time. That's what's going to have to be.
I don't think it's going to ever change. I'm going to be real honest with you.
Please expound on that. Go ahead.
Because people think lighter people automatically sometimes, and this is not all, but most automatically think they have an advantage over darker people. And because that's so prevalent, and because, again, from the last statement I made on the podcast about how white people made it so that white is right and it's the most powerful thing in the world, until that changes, people are always going to associate lighter, anything closest to white as better. And black people that think that are brainwashed and trying to achieve something that they'll never achieve. You'll never be white. Once we break that down and really just love each other for who we are, regardless if you're dark, light, brown, whatever the case may be, we could get somewhere. But that mentality is so powerful, I don't think it'll ever change.
I mean, I think you guys talking about like the depiction and the perception of black and acceptance, but I'm gonna throw a little curveball. Let's talk about like the history and the continuity of the black race. Because, okay, for example, like I was talking to this young lady, she was mixed or whatever, and her daughter, she had a daughter with a predominantly African American man. And she would say, like, my daughter, every time I'm in America, people see my daughter, it's like, oh, your daughter's must be mixed with something. She got this nice, pretty hair. And we know we see her as a black girl. And she was like, no, but she's not just black. She's mixed. And she felt like, and maybe Ivo can relate to this, when you have a parent who is outside of the black community and we accept the child as just being black, the parents sometimes can see that as kind of disrespectful and negligent to their history. Because, while Ivo is black and he's a nigga to me, he also has his Italian side. You know what I'm saying? He has a history, a family culture that is also part of him, that will always be a part of him. But we like to encapsulate him in this black thing. And maybe he enjoys being part of black because he knows in America you're black regardless of what your composition is.
See, but I would disagree and say that maybe even if he doesn't enjoy being black, it's still the one drop rule.
Right. I mean, that too. So I'm going to put my point real quick. So I'm going to take, for example, Steph Curry and his wife, Aisha Curry. So we look at Steph Curry as a black guy, and Aisha, we consider her black, even though you can tell that they have some kind of mixed lineage as well, too. And you look at their children not black, but they almost look albino-ish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So who's to say that when they have children, is Steph Curry's grandchildren considered black? Is his children right now considered black? Because they might say, well, I'm biracial, I'm just mixed. Like, I'm always to the point where it's like, you said, what should we do? I feel like we need to make a conscious effort, like, to preserve our race. I hate to sound like that because that kind of sounds kind of neo-Nazi-ish, I guess, in a way. But at the same time, it's like, in a one way, it's good that we're mixing and we have all these different diverse cultures, because we would never have as many beautiful people inside and out if we kept it like, some kind of streamline. But at the same time, when do we really look like, damn, you know what? Like, Steph Curry kids aren't black anymore. His grandchildren aren't considered black anymore. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're losing the authenticity of our race, but at the same time, we're also bridging the gap of this melting pot. That's my last thought right there.
That's true. We are losing the authenticity of our race. And I think it's going to worsen, even though other cultures preserve their race. I mean, I'm not going to say that.
Say it.
No, I mean, if you go to China, they all look the same for the most part.
No, that's true.
And
That's true. Go
I mean,
ahead.
it's true because they don't intermingle they don't dilute their race. And at what point are we gonna have enough pride in ourselves to, not nix the black girl and want something more exotic to preserve the race? And I actually got that from Rhodes in college. Like
Yeah,
he
I would say that in college.
he enlightened me because at first I was like, what? It doesn't matter. We are who we are. We're people. But he made me think a little bit deeper and say, you know what? That's true. Like we got to preserve what we have.
Well, you know what I would say at this moment? Preservation may not be what saves us because the dilution of the culture has already occurred, both
Mm-hmm.
racially, ethnically, and
culturally.
culturally. Thank you, Tracy. So, with that being said, the whole panel has been on 100 tonight. Tracy, you the guest of the evening, so I'm gonna let you have the last word on what you feel about these topics relating to tonality within the black community.
I think the more people talk about this, the better, because a lot of people just say, that's just the way stuff is. Light skin is always going to be viewed as a higher art than black, darker skin and whatnot. And it's just the way it is. But I think the more you talk about it, people like us and even people on social media, the more they talk about this, the more awareness it gets, because this how stuff changed. You got to kind of release the shades off people's eyes so they can see what's going on here. I think because this has been like an issue for so long, but I think because of social media, it's become more and more discussed and talked about, for better or for worse, that hopefully in the future, this will get better. The sad thing is half of me agrees with Ashley when it may not get better because lighter always seems to be preferred better. And I find it ironic she said that because she kind of slandered black soap but prefers the white soap, but we're not going to talk about that. The point is,
Talk about that.
the first step.
Oh, go ahead.
No, see, first I just want to say not all black soap, Ashley. You got y'all all different variations of black soap.
Okay.
Come on, man. Don't sell no damn black soap right now. Say your last point. Give her some ivory, and let's keep it moving. So, Tracy, your last words as the guest of the evening. What's your last words for us?
My last words is all black is black, regardless. We got to stop letting outside forces just make us see it in different shades. It's all one beautiful shade, ultimately. We just got to accept that and learn it and move on.
And I believe one thing you missed out on that, we got to love it. We got to love each other, man. Point blank. So, thank you, Tracy. Ivo, the other guest of the evening. What's your last words, bro?
Pretty much echoing the same sentiment Tracy said. Like at the end of the day, we have to love each other because, we're all different shades.
Hold on. Tracy didn't say love. I said love. Go ahead, though.
Okay.
Actually, I said love, but go ahead.
I'm gonna echo
Ashley,
what the room is saying. I'm gonna echo what the room is saying. We guys gotta love each other more because even though we're all the same, we're all different shades. We're all the same at the end of the day. That's how we're perceived, and we need to get back to how we were when we were more militant, when we were together, because we had a reason to be, because it was us against the world. Outwardly. Now it's more of an internal battle. Even though you see stuff happening left and right, we have to come together. We have to do it together. If we don't do it together, if there's one person out of 100 who strays away, it won't work. All hands form a fist. A fist more powerful than a finger. So we have to come together, or it's not going to work. And that's what I have to leave you with today.
Thanks,
And
bro.
you got that soul food line on it.
There you go. Even though he said all hands form a fist, he meant all fingers form a fist. But we love you though. Because all hands form a riot, nigga. Like all hands form a riot. All right, Ash, you the queen. Let us know your final thoughts. Go ahead, baby.
Final thoughts. We have to stick together, and I really want us to think about just seeing people for who they are on the inside, and not always thinking about race and color and hair and eyes and all of that stuff, but just really just looking at people for who they are. And when I said about preserving the race, I just want people to think about the other races and how they are so proud to be whatever they are. We need to be doing the same thing. So Black Pride.
Amen. And of course, my co-host, the big homie Rhodes, you got the last final word.
I agree with the room. I think we just have to love each other. Even though, like I even say, preserving a race at the end of the day, It really is all about love, and I think we as a Black community, we have to try to appreciate and acknowledge the features and characteristics of all of our shades of brothers and sisters. There's been times where I have, admittedly been more attracted to the lighter tones and lighter shades. Although I think it
You
might be a
don't say.
contrast thing. Quiet, darky. But I think it might be.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Stop, 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 stop,
And
stop.
the struggle continues.
See.
Oh my God.
No, hold on. Now. I'm gonna
Love.
put the reins back on this. Rose, come on now, bro. Like seriously. I know it's thinking out loud, and I know we having fun, but come on, man.
All right, my
Because
bad.
you
Okay.
basically just epitomized everything that everyone just spoke on.
Right.
Well, it's just realistic.
You called him
The battle
darky,
still continues.
like my thing is, I wasn't gonna say anything about this, but Rose and Tracy are two of the people that I know closest in my life. Like I know Tracy as a person outside of the podcast. I know Rose outside of the podcast. Y'all two motherfuckers, in my opinion, resemble the polarity of the conflict of the Black community. In my personal opinion, Tracy, you resemble night, and
Ooh.
j.Rhodes resembles light. So I feel like y'all have to come to a point where if you're gonna mean what you say and say what you mean, like, come on, man, like we gotta cut that shit out because I know it's funny to us, but it's not funny to the world because they laughing at us, not with us.
Fair enough.
This nigga just scolded me, man.
I'm just
You
saying,
right, man.
I'm saying, bro, I
You
love
right,
you. I'm
man.
saying that because I love you. I'm saying we invited this man on here to speak his truth, and I just want us to be able to respect each other. Like, let's not go down that path because I really feel like this is the problem. We don't understand how foolish we look to the world when we do things like that.
To the world. Love that.
Anyway, back to my point. Okay, thank you. My point was
You said
we should
thank
do
you
it-
for a scolding. Go ahead. Say your last piece, motherfucker.
the point I was trying to make before I was distracted was the fact that we should do
Distracted
a
by
better job.
his blackness.
Exactly. Get him, Ash.
We should do a better job of recognizing and appreciating the features and characteristics of all shades of colors of people, especially in the Black community. Because, like I said, even though a woman or a man may be dark to you, there are still beautiful features about that person. And I just think that we need to appreciate them and value them equally.
I agree with you, man. And I know that everyone listening does not believe a word that you just said, but I do know that at the end of the day, this is Thinking Out Loud. It's your boy J Lib. I want to thank Tracy, the homie. You
He's about to
got
call
on
him
one
black
episode.
homie.
I swear he was about to say the black.
No, I was about to say the big homie, but you're not
No,
the
he
big
was going to
homie
say
yet.
the big homie.
I
He
was going to say
wasn't
the
gonna
big
say
homie.
that.
Cause
I ain't ashamed of my darkness. So
no, bro, that's not what this is. You the homie. Tracy the homie, thank you for joining us, bro. We appreciate you.
thank you for having me, man.
All right, Ivo, you already know what it is, bro.
Yeah, no, it's always love. It's always love. I'm always here for y'all.
And I
Whenever you
wanna-
need me, let me know.
And the reason why we say the thank yous is because I want to let people know that we appreciate you from taking the time out to join us on this. So, Tracy, thank you. Ivo, thank you. Ashley, of course, we love your opinion. You represent for the females. Thank you.
Ladies.
Our fault. That's a cuss word now. I forgot. That's the new rule. What's that? Rule 37. We can't call y'all females.
Yep, it's
All right,
ladies.
cool.
Women.
Got you. Women.
Queens.
Okay. Thank
Queens.
you. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Queen Ashley of the room, we thank you. And then the homie Rhodes.
Get him some help.
No, I need some black stuff. That's what he needs.
Hey, Rose, you my bro, man. But come on, baby. Come on, dog. Like, let's get it right, bro. Come on.
I mean,
Man.
you're right, man, but there's no way I was going to let this podcast go through a mouth and salt turkey.
All right. Look, at the end of the day, you know what this is, and you know who I am, and you know who we are. This is Thinking Out Loud, and we out.
This episode of TOL Podcast was executive produced by J Lip. Music provided by Daisy Smith. And for more episodes, we're on YouTube, SoundCloud, and now iTunes. Go to TOLpodcast.com for the latest. Thank you for listening.